How you going, guys? Welcome back to Lime Hills Junction. This is the state of my layout in New Zealand. This is sort of what I've got planned at the moment. I've had this sort of semi-built for, I don't know, a couple of months now, and I've sort of just been plugging away, and when I can, sort of just trying to get a few ideas and sort of scratch my head trying to figure out what I'm going to do. At the moment I've got these two outside tracks here. They actually go around and do a double loop back on itself. So the outside one goes around, and as it goes around the other side, it actually comes back round underneath the other one and back round, which I thought was probably a good idea for a start off, but I'm still not 100% sure about it, and I sort of haven't really got anything really permanent down, so I'm probably going to change it. I've got an extra piece of MDF to go in here, and I've actually got a bit more that I can actually add some more in here too if I wanted to make that hole in the centre a bit smaller. But at the moment it's a little bit over 2.4 wide, and I think it's 3.3 metres long. So it's a reasonable size. I'm still not sure. I've ordered some more, a few more pieces of flex track and some more points, and I'll sort of start making a bit more track and sort of laying a wee bit more. I've got enough set track curves to sort of do the three loops anyway, without bugging around too much. Most of it's second radius and third. I know realistically that's probably a bit tight, but that's sort of what I've got, and I may as well use it. I'm not too worried about getting really picky and I haven't got a massive amount of room here to make a really big layout and have sort of 4th, 5th, 6th radius sort of curves, and nice big gentle sweeping corners and stuff. But yeah, I'm in two minds of just what I'm going to do here. I did think of this corner where it's raised, putting an extra little piece in the corner and having like a back scene, sort of like a mining sort of thing, and have it so the train would drive in with a rake of open wagons and pull in and have a hopper sort of situation where it fills your wagons up as it slowly pulls through and then pulls back through, and then have another curve with a point come back into it somewhere, back into here somewhere, or this could be adjusted quite a bit at this stage because it's still nothing's really tied down too much. I've got a few track nails here and there just to hold things in place to get a bit more of an idea, and have it so you can go around and have a main line where you can go around, or have another line that sort of comes back and like a train can come with a rake of wagons and load them up and then go back out and then go back down to somewhere else, and they can go on their journey to wherever they're going. And then have a tunnel under here and come back out the other side. On this extra piece of board that I was going to put in, I was thinking about having a small rail yard, and then in here where I've got this split, I was thinking having another track in there, and have part of that going to the rail yard, so you could go into the rail yard and back out, and have the other one come up beside it and actually go around out past the rail yard and back onto one of the other main lines, and have a station in here with a couple of platforms that get off and on. This piece here, I've got it hinged so I can get in and out of the centre easily. I've got a couple of ideas. I need to get something in here so when I open and close it, it locks back into the same spot. And I've got a couple of ideas of to get some old cupboard latches which are like a brass or a bronze latch, and they had like a couple of ball bearings and then like another piece snapped into it, like some of the old cupboards like back in the sort of 60s and 70s. So I was thinking of using something like that, so take a wee bit of force to lift it and it sort of locks it down nice and tight, but when you open it and close it, it really locks back into the same place. So that was sort of my idea for there. And I'm obviously going to have another main line through here. I'll keep the scenery reasonably basic in here, just for when you lift it up and down, nothing can fall off. I won't go into real heavy detail in here like buildings or anything like that. Maybe something smaller, but I'll try and keep it reasonably sort of just maybe farmland or something like that in here, possibly, or who knows yet. Still working on things. Like I could possibly have another fourth main line or part of a main line, or another sort of smaller section where it could go into into a bit of a TMD workshop area, refueling station or something like that. Could have a couple of small lines like that, I'm not going to have a huge layout where I've got 50 engines and a couple of hundred frigging carriages of all sorts of descriptions. I'm going to keep it reasonably simple, but I just wanted a reasonable sort of size, so here, a decent bit of running length. It'd be nice to have a really big layout, but maybe at some point, still not in my own actually house yet, unfortunately. Still renting this one, so I can't sort of go crazy and sort of, if this was my own place, I'd probably quite happily put, screw things to the wall and use this room or another room or one of the sheds and line it out, and you could have quite a big layout, or something a bit more substantial anyway, and have really big fiddle yards and rail yards and all that sort of stuff. This line here in the middle is just, it's just really there at the moment. That's probably going to come in closer, and then I might have another one that comes back out closer to this other one. That's probably going to stay reasonably well there, I think. I don't think this bit will change too much, but I may, as you see, extend this and bring it back out into the outside, and then have this one come back in or something, so it's doing its own single loop. So I can have 2 or 3 trains running around without crashing into each other. My idea of having this way it is now was sort of so you could have a train run around and it can do a couple of loops before it run back on the same track, but then I've since been playing with it a little bit with what I've got at the moment. I sort of found it a bit annoying, because you thought, I run a couple of trains around and that's unless they're running real close, it takes quite a few laps from them to catch each other, but if you're trying to run them at similar sort of speeds, but they do eventually, which can be a bit of a pain if you're not sort of watching too hard and you're buggering around doing other things. I'm probably going to have it so it's just single loops, and then you got to go back through the points to get back through to each other. I was thinking about having sort of once this is moved out of the road and got a reasonable distance in here, I was thinking having a bit of an sort of semi-industrial sort of area in here. Not too sure yet, but that's sort of what I was sort of pointing along, maybe have a freight yard and amongst it, with some trucks and trailers and, lift containers off or something like that. But I'm sort of trying to keep it I'm going to sort of aim for sort of 70s 60s, 70s sort of era, maybe early 80s. I'm not going to try and get too modern. I quite like that sort of oldest sort of stuff. I'm really into the 70s and 60s and sort of 50s cars, like even hot rods and stuff like that. So I don't want to get too modern, because then there's not a lot of that sort of stuff around. So much like there is, but there's not. It's not a common vehicle. So I'd like to try and sort of keep it that sort of earlier stuff, and have a mix of English and Australian and American cars that were reasonably common in New Zealand and Australia. Very very similar countries like with vehicles. We have a lot of Australian cars here, and had a lot of English cars back in the 70s and 80s, and even into the 90s a little bit. They're sort of fading away a little bit. There's still quite a lot of European stuff around, like BMWs and Mercs and Volvos and stuff like that. But there's also quite a lot of American stuff here too. You got a lot of your modern Dodges and like there's a few Chevys and pickup trucks and all that sort of stuff. There's a reason why that sort of stuff floating around too, and like back in the 60s and 50s, and that was all quite common stuff here. So that's what I'm going to try and head for. I'm going to try and sort of mix the Lime Hill theme into it. That's what I was sort of going to run with the mine sort of thing in the corner, or the quarry, or whatever you want to call it. Lime works. Mine the limestone out and crush it up for fertiliser and whatever else they're using it for. That's what I was going to say, sort of go for, and over in that corner where those containers of screws and bits and pieces are, and they have a little train shed at the moment. That's not going to stay there, obviously, but that's sort of what I was going to sort of head for in that corner. And then you have this sort of bit of an industrial area where maybe the trains would come in and unload or maybe transfer like some lime into trucks where it goes away, and then the rest of it will go away to other areas, cities, towns, whatever. I don't know, I'd like to have a little bit of a town scene, or a few shops, or maybe a house or two. So that sort of, I could have like a small train sort of diesel sort of yard in amongst, sort of branching off from here into this area. Have a bit of a workshop or something like that. Just a couple of smaller sheds like that one, and then maybe something a little bit larger, like I started putting on the other original layout that I had in Australia, and then maybe make this the end of it. Put a few houses or bits and pieces, and then maybe sort of have a back scene. I think I probably have a back scene sort of around these these three bits. So like I could start, I could have a housing back scene on here, and have it sort of sprawl into here, and maybe a road through here or whatever, and then have that sort of more start branching off into sort of a bit of farmland, like from the hinge piece on, and then run back in. So like have that sort of like more mountains and hills, but that sort of theme over there, sort of back out into starting it out on the farmland, and then back into the industrial again. So that's a rough plan at this stage. Whether I'm probably not going to keep that hill work sort of like that. I'm going to adjust it. Like, it's not going to change a massive amount, but I think I'm going to have to change what I've done here where it does a double loop. But whether I have three main tracks or whether I squeeze a fourth one in, a wee bit closer to the centre. But as I said, when I go back through in here, there's quite a lot of room in here. I can't remember the exact dimensions now. I think it's close to 1200 across. So I can quite easily bring this in another 200 anyway. So you could quite easily put in the 200 mils of board in here. So once I sort of get the outer part of it done, and then I can bring this in. So, it gives me plenty of access for when I'm working on this bit, and it's not too wide, and then add the other in. I'm going to, when I start doing this, I'll probably have it so I can, got this sort of semi set up, but then sort of lift it out as I'm working on this, and then I can put it back in, and then once I get this sort of more finished, I can put that piece in permanently with my idea of a rail yard in here. That may shift, like I might push it over further and have more of the industrial in here, which mightn't be a bad idea. But we'll see how that pans out. I'll get a bit more track. I'll order another 5 or 6 lengths of flex track and a few more points, and I've ordered a couple of vehicles and bits and pieces. The other day, like I'm sort of spending a couple of $100 a hit. I'm not going too crazy because at this stage I just can't afford to spend a lot of dollars at the time. But so I'll get the main track work sort of sorted, and sort of get this more finished off, because this is just sort of sitting here like I've got to tidy all this up properly. I did think about using the foam risers again, but I thought for the money in them, like when I did that layout, the smaller layout in Australia, which is basically, if you put that extra piece in here, like it's the same size as the end of this, like those risers were, I think it was $60 or $70 Australian, which is not a lot of money, but it still adds up, when I can build it for nothing with a bit of a few materials that I got lying around. I can do basically the same thing, so that's money I can spend somewhere else. That's a couple of points, or another half a dozen, or another 4 pieces of flex track, or like some scenery or some wagons, or like I can go towards like probably some of those Metcraft sort of buildings. I quite like the resin ones, but because they're a bit more sturdy. But like those Metcraft buildings are quite good. But I think I'm just going to have to work on some better glue and sort of get them to hold it together a bit better. Like the ones I built in Aussie were quite good, but I noticed that they started lifting sort of towards the end before I sort of moved. I didn't bring those back with me because they're just too awkward to transport. So that's what I've got planned at this stage. So over the next few weeks I'll slowly plug away and do a little bit more. So I might post a video sort of once or twice a month once I sort of start getting into it a little bit more, and show where we've got going. I started this year, as I said, 3 months ago, and I sort of haven't really done a lot. I've just moved it inside recently in the last couple of weeks. I did have it out in a shed outside, but it's just getting way too cold to do anything onto it. And I thought with the noise being nice and short, it'd be a lot warmer inside the house, and I can sort of puddle away and do a little bit here and there as I can. It can be something to do at night. Sort of sitting there watching TV or whatever. So yeah, alrighty guys, I'll leave you to it, and leave you some ideas and comments and whatever you think, that I could probably, do around the thing, throw me a few ideas, now that you've seen my basic size of my layout and everything. Give me some ideas of what you think I could do. Everything's appreciated, we can help each other out and give each other ideas. Like I've got a few ideas in my head, but yeah, I'll work on it and get it sorted. Alrighty, cheers.